This program deals with themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on the KTPF Community Talk Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for our new weekly radio shows. To accompany the KTPF Community Talk Show, we now have our own free magazine to view online or download for free. Visit our website for more details. Also, the KTPF Community Talk Show is supported by Phenomenon Magazine and Beyond Parazine, available online now. The comments and views expressed on the KTPF Community Talk Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the views of ourselves or of our sponsors.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk Radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the KTPF Community Talk Show, live from Manchester on www.ktpf.co.uk. My name is Suzanne.
I'm Steve.
And over in Essex we have...
Me!
It's Andy Mercer. And we are all here keeping the paranormal friendly each and every Sunday as we do. So pull up a chair and relax with us while we bring you a show full of the supernatural, the paranormal and other strange phenomena. We incorporate a wide spectrum within these fascinating subjects, so if you have any questions for us or our guests, then all you have to do is add ktpf.paranormalshow to your Skype connections, and you too can speak to our guest, or alternatively, if you're shy, then you can use our live interactive chat room and we will pass your comments and questions on for you. Now, we would like to start as always by acknowledging our listeners this evening. It's great to have you live with us, and also those that will be tuning in to our radio replay on the YouTube channel at KTPF Community Show, which is where you'll find all our previous shows dating back to March 2012. So how you been this week, Andy? You're literally back from Glastonbury.
Which the last 15 minutes or so, usually get back a bit earlier than that, but the traffic was dreadful. On a little visit to Glastonbury, as I often do every few months, as you know, to mainly end up buying about 24 books as usual. Whilst Mandy, my wife, goes on to her friend's B&B house on the coast, I get left in Glastonbury for 2 days, which is very nice. But other than that, Urban, the usual, works okay, not too busy, not too quiet. So, yeah, ticking along nicely, really.
Okay. Well, guys, I just want to mention to you that if we have any problems with live stream, then all you have to do is refresh the page. The other thing I need to mention is we've noticed just before we come on air that we may have a lead problem, and not having a lead to replace at this particular time, there may be a slight shushing sound on the recording, so or you might be hearing. So I hope it doesn't affect your viewing or your listening with us tonight. Now, what have we got on tonight's show talking about that? Now, located in the Uinta Basin near the town of Fort Duchesnes, paranormal phenomena such as strange creatures, bizarre objects, flying black triangles, animal mutilation and telepathic messages have been reported on the Skinwalker Ranch for hundreds of years. It is estimated that over half the population in the area surrounding the ranch have witnessed unusual paranormal activity on or near to what has become known as the strangest place on earth. Even the local Ute Indians believe the land was cursed, and tribe members have been strictly forbidden from setting foot on the property. Apparently, it was due to a curse that was put on them generations ago by the Navajos, and the centre of the whole legend is this ranch, which they call the Path of the Skinwalker. Other cultures call them shapeshifters, werewolves, or Bigfoot. Andy's laughing.
You need to say something else then.
All right. Now we are talking about 480 acres of ranch, which was divided into 3 sections, each section being a former residence, but it's now become one. with a small river on one side, a rocky ridge on the other, which is referred to as Skinwalker Ridge by the Utes. The only way in or out is via a long dirt road. When the Gormans, which is not their real name, so I don't know why they're not using their real name, but never mind, bought the place in 1994, it had been vacant for 7 or 8 years. They were curious about the array of bolts that covered the doors and windows of the main house. There were deadbolts on both sides of the doors and at both ends of the house. Iron stakes and heavy chains had been installed. Maybe the previous tenants had large guard dogs in the front and back of the home. During the Gorman's occupancy, they were tormented by a sundry of mysterious and unrelated weirdness. We talked to Paul Dale Roberts tonight about his investigation at the Skinwalker Ranch, also known as Sherman's Ranch. And before we go into talking to Paul, as always, we're going to hand over to Steve with his observations.
Good evening, everyone. Right, I'm off to Craignes.
Craignes?
Craignes Ghost.
Okay.
While touring the Normandy beaches in the fall of 2008, my wife and I visited the cemetery and the ruins of the Cathedral of Craignes. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but who cares? I took a single photo of a marble plaque commemorating the massacre of American paratroopers and French citizens by Germans in 1944. This was taken with a digital camera and not reviewed until we returned to Canada. Reflected in the black marble over my right shoulder is the grainy figure of a soldier. Interestingly, the soldier is in black and white and the photo is in colour. No one was in the cemetery but us at the time. He appears to be in a World War I style uniform with kepi and a double row of buttons on his tunic. I have purposely not highlighted the figure. Well, I'm glad somebody did, because it makes it clearer for us to see. What do you think, guys?
Actually, looking at the original image, not the enlargement, it does look like there's someone standing there, certainly. I don't know about the detail of the tunic and buttons, there's just sort of slightly grey triangle of it at the front. But I can certainly see it looks like there's someone standing there, but whether it's a ghost, of course, is a different question. But yeah, it's on the surface, on the face of it, it's quite interesting.
Isn't it? Here we go again. Two friends are convinced a phantom hitchhiker lurking late at night on a narrow country lane was the ghost of a dead RAF pilot. Rob Davis and Chris Felton spotted the ghostly figure of a man trying to wave them down on the side of the road near Belsey in Northumberland. Left the Gateshead radio presenters in a sleepless night. The pair claimed the man was dressed in RAF gear as he emerged late at night, and they since discovered that he was stood close to where an Air Force jet crashed during Second World War. Rob from Wickham and Chris from Berkeley had been out recording a piece on the anniversary of the medieval battle of Otterburn between the Scottish and the English. We're heading home along the A696 just after 11:30 on a Wednesday night. They spotted, hang on, let's bring this down, I keep forgetting to do that, spotted the unusual figure. Rob, 27, told the Chronicle, "We saw a man standing at the side of the road. We both actually jumped at first because we didn't see him until very late. He was dressed in beige colour from head to toe. He was sticking out his arm for a lift, but we couldn't stop in time due to being at 60 miles an hour. Rob claims the man's eye did not reflect the car lights and added, Chris, who was driving, decided to turn around for him, but we both agreed that he looked a bit odd. We were 2 miles north of the nearest village and there was nothing for miles. We said we would pick him up if he was real and just to make sure was dropped at the nearest village and joked he might be a phantom hitchhiker. I started filming on my iPhone as we seemed a bit odd. We couldn't remember how far back he was. We saw him again and slowed. He was dressed in what I can only describe as RAF gear and was holding something under his arm which looked like a helmet of some kind of bag. We had to turn again so we could pick him up. However, when we did so, the ghostly figure had vanished. It was only seconds and no other car had been passed, but when we turned round, he was gone, said Rob. We continued driving and there was nobody walking on either side of the road. We cannot explain it. The only explanation is that he walked off into the darkness. There was another car behind us, but he did not stop either. We can only assume the driver would have seen him, also with his clothes caught in the light of the headlights. It would be interesting if they or any other motorists on the road could have seen him. We are 100% that nobody stopped, or we would have seen them pulling over. Rob has since found out that the crash is near where the man was standing, which happened during the training exercise in 1943. And he said, when we got home, I googled all the fatal accidents that had happened on this piece of road. Having watched the video, I find it odd. As they go past the camera, the phone goes up, so you missed the hitchhiker. What do you think, guys? It would have been nice if you'd have kept the camera down so you saw him as he went past.
That does make it a bit, sort of takes away from it somewhat. Why did the camera suddenly not get that one bit?
It's the one bit everybody wants to see, isn't it?
Exactly. It is a shame and a bit suspicious, but that's another thing.
Yeah, it does look quite interesting, but as you say, it would have been better if they kept the camera down as they actually passed rather than going up. But
Exactly.
we could have seen more. Or, of course, if they kept it on it and as they got up to it, it vanished, it would have been even more.
That would have been much better.
Yeah, much better at all. Okay, off more ghosts. The ghost of an English Civil War soldier has been spotted in a historic pub said to be haunted. At least that's according to the boozer's landlord and self-confessed skeptic, non-believer Mike Woolens, runs the Old White Hart in Hull, East Yorks. And he says the grainy image is said to show a sneaky English Civil War cavalier earwigging on plans to snub King Charles I, has left him struggling for a rational explanation. He said, I'm quite sceptical about this kind of thing, but there are some things you can't explain. The spooky snap was taken by a punter at a clairvoyant night. It appears to show the side profile of a man with long hair and a moustache, the look favoured by cavaliers loyal to King Charles I during the 17th century. The Old White Hart is best known as the location of a meeting in 1642 between the Governor of Hull and Sir John Hothams and the burghers, during which they agreed to refuse King Charles' entry into the city. The act of defiance hatched in the so-called plotting room on the first floor of the pub was one of the incidents that sparked the Civil War. Mike, who has run the pub with his wife Kerry and daughters Jess since 2009, said, "This is a new one on us. The person who took this photograph told us it looked like Guy Fawkes, but there is no connection with him in this pub. I think people get confused because of the link with the plotting. Since taking over the pub, we've seen several spooky occurrences, and that has left Mike and his family struggling for rational explanation." Jess said her son Bobby was also experiencing ghostly goings on. She said, I went into his bedroom above the pub, and he said, "Shut the door, Mummy, he can see me." I asked who, and he replied, "The man there," and there was no one there. Clairvoyant Nettie, who hosted the pub's evening, says she thinks the photograph is genuine ghosty sighting, but luckily for punters, he's a friendly ghost. She said there is 100% present at the Old White Hart, but it's definitely calming presence, and the pub dates back to the 1500s. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I can't see
I can't see nothing
no
either.
cavalier.
No.
There's
Absolute rubbish.
what could be a silly looking face, but it's pareidolia, guys. Come on.
I can't even see the face. I don't see anything.
Well, it's not. It's a weird kind of thing, but it's definitely not a
Absolutely.
ghosty figure. It's a bit silly to be saying it is, to be honest.
Definitely. I mean, it is. I can't see anything there. I really can't see a thing. Yeah. All rather silly.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, what's next?
Stephen Strenforth, owner, operator of Bigfoot Books and member of the Bluff Creek Project, just posted this amazing and previously unreleased, stabilised and colour balanced, unedited, full roll one of the Patterson Gremlin film footage. This is a duplicate copy of the full roll, which was in Roger Patterson's Cine K100 camera the day of 20th of October 1967. Most people have never seen the footage. You need to, if you're watching it now, click about halfway up, because you don't really see anything until then. And tell me what you think.
Okay.
Yes, there is a silly sound on it. But it sounds like a cine camera.
Imagine they've added that sound, because they wouldn't have had that sound if you digitised it, would they?
Okay. While they're looking at that, Steve, what's the next one?
Hold on, let's see this first. I'll just comment before we see anything else.
Oh, go on then, hurry up then.
It's quite interesting, actually.
And the camera waves around again. It's very, very brightly red of the leaves of the trees.
It is, isn't it?
An horse riding with another horse. That's what we're looking at. Where's the
Yeah.
Oh, this is there. Oh, I see. Fast forward to about 2:45.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Right, here we go. Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Oh, stabilising slowly, and person walking past in suit. I mean, no, sorry, the Yeti walking past. Yeah, it's about as real as my Aunt Fanny. Who I don't have. No, I've never, ever been even vaguely, even remotely convinced by this footage, ever at all, slightly, even vaguely. So, I guess I'm still not convinced.
I think he just doesn't believe in cryptids. To be honest.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just that I have seen a stabilised version like this before, actually. There's a guy whose video footage I looked at for quite a long time, because he was trying to point out what he believes is it's like a muscle deformation around the knee on one leg that appears to shake as it walks, as if it's got a herniated muscle. I think more likely the herniated muscle is actually the fact the suit isn't fitting properly. I'm just never been convinced by this. You know, if female gorillas or large primates of any kind do not have hairy breasts. They don't, you know. If you look at any chimpanzee or gorilla or orangutan, any of the higher developed ape animals don't have hair on their breasts, female versions. So why does this? That's the one thing I've always found a bit odd. And people say, well, why do they bother faking it with breasts to make it female? It'd be easier just to fake it as a male. But I think that's because they wanted to be more convincing by making it appear to have breasts. But female primates do not have hairy breasts.
Okay. I'm off to Norwich now.
Off to Norwich.
I wonder if JW heard this. A mysterious, high-pitched noise over the North Norwich was captured on camera in the early hours of Monday morning. The video was shot by North Norwich resident David Allison, who said this morning, just gone, 5 a.m, there was a horrendously loud, high-pitched noise outside. I witnessed this just off Denmark Road, and my colleague also witnessed it on Bell Road. It lasted approximately half hour before making a powering down noise, and then it started again approximately 20 minutes later for another 10 minutes. Did you hear the noise? Can you solve the mystery behind it? If you can you email peter.raven@argent.co.uk.
Okay. Right.
What do you think of that noise, guys?
That was the noise itself. It sounds like something. What does it sound like? God, I can't think. It sounds like something though. It's a noise I've heard before. Huh?
Microwave?
No. No, it's like a radio thing. I've heard that noise before. Oh, it really hurts your ears, that's for sure.
It does. It's reminded me of feedback from a speaker when you got a mic now.
That kind of thing, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's it.
But apparently it was loud enough to be heard all over Norwich, or North Norwich anyway.
Those kind of odd noises seem to be very low frequency, deep rumbling and that sort of thing. I did a little feature on those a few months ago. And it is more of a general deep rumbling sound you tend to get rather than something like that. So that is a bit strange.
Yeah, okay.
Atmospherics, I think, is probably again the most likely as most of these noises. But don't know, who knows.
So I now have an idea for a new TV show or film.
Okay.
What if IKEA furniture was evil? Well, you know the Marissa? That's the premise behind Fox pilot called Horror Store from Gossip Girl creator Josh Schwartz. EW has learned that Fox has commissioned a 1-hour dramedy pilot about a 26-year-old named Amy. The pitch is Amy is a newly sober and lands a job in a furniture megastore opening in a town called Orsk, the US flagship of the European furniture superstore. It feels like an opportunity. She's needed to get her life back on track. But Amy comes to discover the store actually preys upon its customers' desires to supernatural degree, selling products that make their wishes and fantasies come true in unexpected and insidious ways. To be clear, that horror stores spoofs the off-market IKEA, and the plot has nothing to do with the actual Swedish furniture megastore. Schwartz and Michael here we go. Vukad Inovich, what a name, will write the project without an alien wrench, presumably, which is inspired by a novel with the same name from Grady Hendrix, who will serve as a consultant on the project. Well, there you guys go, guys. That is me for this week.
Thank you, Steve. So I'm going to do my Tupenneth while I'm here, since we've got a bit of time.
Yes, I went through them rather quickly.
You did do that quite quickly. Phantom Bishop pictured in one of Britain's most haunted cathedrals. Okay, let me just put this link up for you.
That is the link, yeah.
Ah, the link. Right. I've lost it. A mum got the fright of her life when she saw the ghost of a medieval bishop lurking in a picture taken at one of Britain's most haunted cathedrals. Kerry Launders, 29, took the spooky shot after visiting Norwich Cathedral, we're back in Norwich again, with partner Simon Tobb, 30, and her children Millie, 2, and Oscar, 1. When she looked at the pictures taken on her mobile phone back home, she saw the creepy figure captured on the upper level of the allegedly haunted 11th century building. The apparition appears to wear long robes and a tall hat like a bishop. Miss Launders from Bury in Greater Manchester believes it could be one of the 12 or so bishops buried in the cathedral. She said, "It was the first time in a cathedral, my first time in the cathedral, and it was really nice. There was nothing up there, but when I looked back through my photos, I saw something and had a proper look, and I thought, wow, this is a good picture. It looks like a bishop, and there's a lot of those buried there, with the long clothing and the tall hat. I wasn't scared when I saw it, though, because I believe in this sort of stuff. The Grade 1 listed cathedral is reputedly haunted, and a number of ghost tours have it as a focal stop-off point. People, including workers on surrounding building sites, have reportedly seen objects moving on their own and heard strange noises. Visitors have also claimed to have seen other ghostly figures inside the cathedral."
Ghostly Norwich.
Ghostly Norwich. So, I've got another one there, but I'm going to save that for later because I'm sure that I'm not sure whether I'll have time to do it, to be honest with you. Oh, I will have time. I've got plenty of time. Right, I will do this other one for you. I won't put the link up. Well, I will put the link up, but I won't put it on thingy yet. I'm not reading all of it, but there is quite a lot that I need to read. Today marks, this is for all you Elvis fans, today marks the 38th anniversary of the singer's death. Elvis Aaron Presley was born in Tupelo, Mississippi on January the 8th, 1935, and prescription drug abuse contributed to the death of Elvis Presley by heart attack on August the 16th, 1977. While alive, Elvis Presley became known as the King of Rock and Roll, as you know, and he died a tragic death, and it is said that the people who die tragically of sad deaths quite often stay around as ghosts, so it's quite possible that Elvis Presley is still around as a ghost today. People driving by on the road outside Gracelands have claimed to see the young soldier Elvis walking around and walking through the gates at Graceland. Other people have made the claim that they have seen Elvis all around present-day Graceland. Some people have even gone as far to ask the person doing the tour about the man dressed up like Elvis. They've only to be told that there is no man dressed up like Elvis on the tour. So the people have been seeing the ghost of Elvis so have they been seeing Elvis Presley? People on the Graceland tour also commented that they could hear Elvis singing and that the sound was coming from upstairs, but the tour operators say that it has to be the people's imagination playing tricks with them. The spirit or ghost of Elvis, I say spirit or ghost because it could be a replay, a stone tape theory, may be forever trapped at Graceland because Elvis died there and it was his favourite place on earth. But keep in mind that the ghost of Elvis is also seen in other locations around the United States. He's often seen at the old RCA studios and in Las Vegas at the Hilton, where Elvis often played and stayed in the early 1970s. The ghost of Elvis... Andy?
I don't know where it's coming from. I've learned anything.
On the website that you're on.
Find something you're coming from.
I've got nothing open. Where's it coming from? Oh.
It's gone now. The ghost of Elvis is seen quite often, and he has even been seen in a white rhinestone suit hurrying along in the direction of the stage where he once performed. People have tried to talk to him, but he vanishes at once. Elvis has also been seen in a red Cadillac around the Las Vegas Hilton, and people quite often think it is someone dressed as Elvis until Elvis drives the car through the concrete retaining wall and vanishes. It is interesting to note that at the time of Elvis performing at the Las Vegas Hilton, there was a private driveway for him to go into the Hilton, where the concrete wall is now standing. And most people had no idea that Elvis once had a private entrance into the building. So maybe people really are seeing the ghost of Elvis there at the Hilton. A Las Vegas psychic said...
Can I pause you for a second?
Go on.
The video on the actual page that you put up isn't working. If you go to the YouTube bit and go to about 2 minutes in, then you'll see it.
See what?
The ghostly face that they're talking about.
Oh, I don't know. I just put the write-up up because there was more there. A Las Vegas psychic says that Elvis is still here on Earth because he still has unfinished business to do, and that eventually the ghost of Elvis will move on and go on to the other side. Every year now, near his birthday and near the date of his death, the sightings go up, and many people have photos that claim that the ghost of the King of the Rock and Roll. But it is at and around Graceland that people most often claim to see the ghost of Elvis Presley. Hold on. See the ghost of Elvis Presley. Employees who work in Graceland tell strange tales about things going on at Graceland. The employees say that they hear doors shut and open on their own, toilets flush, voices are heard where there are no people. Shadow people are quite often seen at Graceland, both by the employees and people on the actual tour. No one has ever claimed that Elvis is a shadow person, but people do report seeing shadow people at Gracelands. One of the most famous sightings of the ghost of Elvis occurred when several people on a tour in Graceland in 1988 claimed that as a much younger Elvis came up behind them and asked them, "What are you doing in my house?" That would have been freaky. The story was reported by at least 9 people on the tour at various times over the next few days. Some of the people again thought it was an actor dressed as Elvis, while at least 3 of the people reported they could see straight through him. Visitors to Graceland had reported seeing him looking out windows at Graceland, sitting on his grave and walking on the first lawn at Graceland. Most people have reported seeing him in the area of the bathroom where he died. Other people have seen him in the kitchen at Graceland. They say he's eating a cheeseburger, but his favourite was a fried banana sandwich. Many people at first thought it was an actor dressed as Elvis again, but when they approach him, he just disappears. And some people have even reported seeing Elvis and his mother walking on the front lawn of Graceland. It has been reported that they walk towards the front gate and just vanish once they get there. Elvis loved his mother very much, and they are both buried on the property. So it does appear that Elvis Presley, or at least his ghost, is still at Graceland and still very active. What do you think?
Well, I just watched the video.
Okay.
On the YouTube. It is interesting to the extent that the reflections in the windows of that are in colour, and the face that it's supposed to be Elvis is in black and white.
Okay. Right.
So, but unless somebody's actually showing a black and white copy of Jailhouse Rock,
okay,
then it's an interesting to see, interesting one to work out.
Right. I'm going to add our guest to our conversation, our Skype call, and then I'll just do a quick introduction of him. Are you with us, Paul? Hello? Are you there? Hello? Oh, it's still ringing. We did have problems earlier, so hopefully we haven't got problems now. Hello?
Hi, how you doing?
Hiya, Paul. You all right?
Yes, I'm right here, and I
good.
can hear you fine.
Okay, let me just do this introduction, and then we'll get back to you. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Right, we're talking about the Skinwalker Ranch tonight, and apparently the NIDS, the National Institute of Discovery Science, went to investigate the Skinwalker Ranch and witnessed a few things that they can only classify as paranormal. It's rumoured that NIDS were once the OSIR, Office of Scientific Investigation and Research. It is said that they also received the budget from the government. We'll see what our guest has to say about that. But Paul Dow Roberts is with us from Elk Grove, California. Became a paranormal investigator in 2004, and with over 900 investigations under his belt, I'm sure he has plenty to talk about. Again, good evening again, Paul. How are you?
All right, how you doing?
Not too bad at all. It's nice to speak to you again.
Oh, it's so nice to talk to you too. So how's everything in England?
Not too bad, not too bad. Well, we've got my husband here, Steve, who you'll remember.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and we've also got Andy Mercer. He's new to us since you last spoke to us, so he's there on Skype with us as well.
Oh, how you doing, Andy Mercer?
I'm not too bad at all. I hope you're doing well as well.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well, let's start first of all, Paul, because we've got quite a few new listeners since we last spoke. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I lived in a haunted house when I was a small child on Effie Street in Fresno, and all kinds of terrible things happened to me. I was pushed into a heater and everything else, so I became very, very interested in the paranormal. So at a young age, I started reading a lot of paranormal books, and I became very knowledgeable about the paranormal. And somehow my life led me towards being a paranormal investigator. From everything from being an investigator with Criminal Investigation Division, the Narcotics Drug Suppression Team, which gave me some investigative skills, and being in military intelligence, a 97 Bravo intelligence analyst. So all those things led me towards a career of being a paranormal investigator.
Okay. And you've had quite a life of it, haven't you? Over 900 investigations to your credit.
Actually, I'm probably in the thousands now. So, yeah. And also, too, my wife, Deanna Jackson Stinson, and myself, we both write paranormal books. So she has like 35 paranormal books out there, and I have less than that. But she's a very prolific writer.
Okay. Now, you say that you became interested as a child, obviously, with your first experience. What made you decide to become an investigator?
I really was very, very curious. I wanted to know if there's really an afterlife out there. I really wanted to know if there's extraterrestrials out there. Just a very strong curiosity. And when I became a paranormal investigator, I saw how many people really needed help, especially people who have demon possession, or some kind of dark force in their house, how they needed help. So I learned how to be a Roman Catholic cleanser, and my wife, she's a metaphysical cleanser. So she uses Palo Santo wood, and she uses sage, and I use holy water. So w- we get great satisfaction in knowing that we help people, where people call us and say, Paul, we can now sleep. The house there's a lighter atmosphere now. So we get great pleasure in hearing positive comments like that.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. It's very prolific over in America, isn't it? But can you tell me why, if you don't mind, we hear a lot of demonic stuff that happens in America. Why do the Americans seem to go down the demon road?
It's because, and a majority of our paranormal hotline calls are from people who play around with Ouija boards.
Right, okay.
People, their curiosity leads them to the dark side. They don't know what they're doing. They open up a portal and they bring a dark force into their lives and into their home. And you get a lot of that just because of foolishness.
Right, okay. Now, we want to talk about your visit to the Skinwalker Ranch. Now, I have read... bear with me. I have read that the ranch, also known as the Sherman or Gorman Ranch, has had sightings of UFOs, Bigfoots, unknown energies that seem to be intelligent. Why did you become interested in the ranch itself?
Just because of all the paranormal phenomena that happen there. Just like you said, you have poltergeist activity, you have hauntings like ghosts, you have Bigfoot, you have UFOs, you have various cryptids that hang around that area. And the area itself, the Utah County, it's the Native American Indians said that it was a very mystical place, and that there was sky gods that would open up a portal and they would come out of the portal. So before the ranch was ever there was already talk about paranormal activity by the Native American Indians. And what is really interesting is when it was known as the Gorman Ranch, when the Gormans lived there, Mr. Gorman and his son were walking around, and one of their calves was being chewed on by this wolf-like creature. And so they took their shotguns out and they started shooting at this wolf-like creature. And the bullets were bouncing off this wolf. And they were just totally shocked and amazed at what was going on. And they kept on firing at it. And finally, this wolf creature just merely walked away, didn't run, just walked away and went into the woods. That was their very first experience. And another experience that they had is they saw this unusual RV parked on one of their dirt roads. And as they were watching the RV takes off, goes up the dirt road, and all of a sudden, it goes into the air, and it morphs into a UFO.
Yeah.
And so that was just really, really odd.
Yeah.
So all these little things that they were talking to their neighbors about, the story got around, And before you knew it, you had many, many people who were very interested in the Gorman Ranch, or was also too known as the Sherman Ranch, the UFO Ranch, and finally Skinwalker Ranch. So you had all the, especially George Knapp. And George Knapp is a radio personality. He wrote a book about it and became very, very interested. And they were, George Knapp is the one also too that mentioned that there was poltergeist activity there. Things were moving around, cabinets were opening up, dishes were flying out of the cabinets, just all kinds of weird stuff.
Well, when I did the introduction, earlier to let people know what we was talking about tonight, I did tell them about the story when they first moved in, the Gormans, which apparently is not their real name, which is what I've heard. But when they moved in, the place had been vacant for 7 to 8 years, and there was these huge bolts covering the door and iron stakes out the back with heavy chains attached to them. That does sound a bit foreboding when you're moving into a new house.
Right. Yeah, and the Gormans just, they basically just were talking to everybody about it. And that's when the National Institute for Discovery Science became very interested in the ranch. And a lot of people believe that the National Institute for Discovery Science is actually the Office of Scientific Investigation and Research, the OSIR, and they changed their name. And the OSIR was run by Christopher Chacon. So, and Dan Aykroyd became interested in the OSIR and came out with a show called Sci Factor, and it was based on their scientific discoveries and their investigations into the unknown. So the National Institute for Discovery Science, which is government funded, bought the ranch, and it's now called the NIDS Ranch because of the scientists that live there. And one of the scientists came out and said that he saw a portal open up in the sky, and a Bigfoot creature came out of the portal and ran off into the woods. And it's always been my theory that Bigfoot is an interdimensional type being. There's been reports where people shot at Bigfoot and that it just blew up into sparks.
Wow.
And that would tell me that it's an energy type being. That's the reason why we can't capture one, because it goes from our reality into its own reality and back into our reality to make a nest or whatever, but or eat our berries or whatever. But that's the reason why we can't capture one, because I believe it's interdimensional. And if that scientist, what he says is true, that a portal opened up and the Bigfoot creature came out, it's most likely coming from another dimension.
We have heard this theory quite a lot of late, where the where people do think that Bigfoot is connected to UFOs, haven't we, Steve?
We have, yeah, and the interdimensional thing's also been mentioned recently, which I happen to agree with.
Yeah. So anyway, Paul, you've been to the Skinwalker Ranch, I believe. Can you tell us what you think is going on there? Can you set the scene about your investigation?
Yes, I've been to Skinwalker Ranch. Unfortunately, when we got there was a huge storm. I mean, there was lightning everywhere. There was thunder. I had 2 investigators with me. The storm was horrendous. But we finally got up there. We're putting up our tent. I must have fell into the mud many times over. It was just really, and this happened during the summertime. So you wouldn't think there would be a big storm, but here it is, a big storm. I wasn't expecting it. Completely muddy. While they're setting up the tent, we did hear this really strange scream. And Um, and listening to the recorder, I had the recorder on. All you can hear is the rain. You couldn't hear the scream or the screech or that we were hearing, but there was this really strange sound. Okay, that was one strange thing that happened there. The other strange thing is the sky seemed like it opened up and there was ball lightning that came from the sky and hit the ground and rolled. And that was really odd because I've never seen ball lightning in my whole life. And that was the first time I ever experienced it. And you can't call that paranormal because ball lightning, everybody sees it.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody sees it. I mean, but it's a rare phenomenon that's a natural phenomenon. It's not paranormal. But I've never seen it in my whole life, and that's the first time I ever seen ball lightning. And I experienced it at Skinwalker Ranch. The very next day, we were going to stay out there camping for about a week. And the very next day, one of the investigators was very deathly sick and had pneumonia. And we had to drive back. And that was the end of our adventure in Skinwalker Ranch.
Right,
So
okay.
the only thing I witnessed was the ball lightning, and and we heard that real loud screech. So that could have been anything.
Steve, you got a question?
Yeah, when it comes down to the Skinwalkers, the Utes are the tribe in the area, but isn't the Skinwalker a Navajo legend and supposed to be a rogue witch doctor stroke medicine man? Was this Navajo land at some point?
Um, the Indians say that the land is very sacred, and the reason why Skinwalker Ranch is called Skinwalker is because of the Native American Indian legend that uh, you had people who can transform into various animals, and they were the skinwalkers. And so that legend was really, really strong out there. And it's because the land is mystical that you had skinwalkers out there, according to the Indian legends out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've heard that the Utes actually think they've been cursed by the Navajo. One thing I read is they were cursed because they were supposed to have kidnapped some Navajos and sold them into slavery, but I kind of doubt that, considering the Navajo was the stronger tribe. They
Yeah.
would have just thought it was war and gone and attacked them rather than actually cursing them.
The valley itself was dominated by the Utah Indians, and I believe, yeah, the Navajos were involved, and with a skirmish between the Utah and the Navajo, some type of curse was placed upon the valley. So that's one story.
Okay.
But there's just so many different stories. Um, what is really interesting is every time we have an investigation on land that was once occupied by Indians, let's say sacred land, we had an incident, um, and it was over in um, I believe it was Grass Valley. I don't have my notes in front of me, but um, this was Indian territory, and my wife is a sensitive, and while we were there investigating, she was using her crystal skulls, and she was doing her type of prayers and stuff like that, trying to connect with the land. And at some point in time, there was a burning sensation on her leg, and she says, "Paul, there's something burning my leg." And three investigators with cameras take a picture of her leg, and when we were looking at it, there's this black thing that was hovering over her leg, and we have no explanation for that. So anytime we investigate land that was occupied by Indians, that sacred land, or areas of where they buried their dead, or whatever, we get very unusual paranormal activity, and I'll never forget that. And I even have the picture, but that strange black thing that's hovering over her leg uh, really sticks with me because I have no explanation for that, and it's just so odd that it was burning her leg.
Yeah, that's really weird. I wish I could actually see that picture. Uh, I'm going back to the ranch. There's so much that's supposed to have happened there. Cattle, cattle mutilation for one. It's been mentioned that there was no blood or very little, which to me would mean a cauterizing knife or a laser of some sort was used. What do you think's happening there?
Not only do they get cattle mutilations over there, but cattle mutilations happen all over the United States. And there's a theory that ufologists have came up with is that the Greys are biological robots and that they test cattle and they abduct people and to use our organs and use our skin, use our blood to create more Greys. And that's an interesting theory. And they say that cows, the their skin and their blood are very similar to human skin and blood. So it's very interesting because you get all these different cattle mutilations, and they're saying that the Greys, if they're biological robots, that they recreate themselves by abducting people and abducting cattle. So, and it's really unusual because at the cattle mutilation investigations, they find that these cattle are all drained of blood. There's no blood in sight, and it's laser precision that they're being cut open. And they're being cut open around the eyes, the mouth area, around their sexual organs. And yeah, there's definitely something very strange going on. And I really kind of like this theory about because a lot of people who get abducted by aliens and they say that the Greys are very robotic. And they work like with a hive mind, that one mind is controlling a multitude of Greys, and you would think biological robots. It's a very strong possibility.
Okay. Now we've also heard that there's been seen the Mothman over there as well. What can you tell us about this?
Right in Sacramento, we have the Sacramento Bridge, and we had 3 witnesses to the Mothman being on top of this bridge. And two of the witnesses backed out when the news got involved. They didn't want their name published. They didn't want to talk about it on TV. But one of the witnesses was brave enough to talk about it, use his name, and he claims that the Mothman was actually seen on this bridge, and as he watched it, it flew off. It did a swoop into the Sacramento River and flew off. Some people theorize that maybe it was a large owl. He claims up and down it was not an owl, that it was a humanoid. It was about 7 feet tall. Its head was lowered. It seemed like it didn't have a neck. Its eyes were piercing red. Large wings, very large wings. And it seemed like it was covered in like feathers or something like that. So, but after that sighting, nobody else has seen Mothman in the Sacramento area.
And they've not seen it at the Gorman Ranch either.
Say that again?
Have they seen it at the Gorman Ranch?
Oh yes, yes. There's been a couple sightings of Mothman at Gorman Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch. Um, in fact, one of the scientists that works for that National Institute says that they saw a Mothman type creature. Yeah, so that's really interesting. And another thing that's interesting is a creature very similar to it. It's called the Bat Squatch. The Bat Squatch has been seen at Mount St. Helens, and recently it was seen at Mount Shasta. And for some reason, the Bat Squatch is connected to dormant volcanoes, and a lot of people think that that Bat Squatch acquires some type of energy from these volcanoes. And a lot of UFO activity happens at volcanoes. It's like a gas station. It's where they can power up and take off. So, so it's kind of unusual now. The Bat Squatch, which is very similar to Mothman, who knows? Bat Squatch could possibly be the Mothman,
Yeah.
but it's seen at Mount St. Helens and now seen at Mount Shasta, and that was seen recently.
Okay.
Yeah, going back to the ranch and the cattle mutilations, James W. In the chat room has asked, is there a genetics lab nearby?
Not that I know of, but also too, if scientists have purchased the ranch, the scientists could have some kind of genetic lab near that ranch. Also, too, there's stories that there's hidden caverns in the Uintah Valley, and UFO activity is seen coming in and out of the ground area. So possibly there's caverns in that valley, and maybe a UFO base, maybe a UFO military base. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a story we heard today when we were doing some research. The Gormans had new calves and that, so they went out and put the little clip in the calf's ear, and the ground there is quite flat. There's not really hills, so they walked around to do the others, and they were about 10 minutes later, and they heard this big noise, and they turn around, and the mother of the calf is going absolutely nuts. So they run back, and the calf itself, all that's left is bones. Everything else is gone. The meat, 75 pounds worth of meat, is gone in the space of 10 minutes.
Oh my God! Have you heard that one, Paul?
And all that's left was one of the thigh bones had been like thrown away about 10 feet away from where the calf was.
Yeah, I basically heard that story, but also too, I heard a story where people have walked around Uintah Valley, where Gorman Ranch is, and like there's like these little holes or ventilation things in the ground, and they can hear people screaming inside. So when you're talking about a genetic lab, is it possible that people are being abducted and taken into an underground UFO military base and being experimented on, because they say that they hear human voices and human voices screaming in the ground? So that is really, really unusual also too. And right now there's a TV show they got it just recently came on here in America. It's called Missing in Alaska. And there's an area in Alaska, it's like a Bermuda Triangle, and something like 60,000 people in 20 years have gone missing in this area. Where did all those people go to? Were they abducted? Were they taken to Skinwalker Ranch? Are they taken to some kind of genetic lab? What is going on? How can all those people be missing? People are missing all the time, all around the world. And where are these people going to?
Yeah. Before Sue answers your next question, James W. said thank you for answering his question.
One thing I wanted to ask you, I found out today that the ranch is now vacant. I don't know whether you know who owns the ranch now, but I've heard that it's vacant. But there's a conspiracy theory that the security firm there now is the same company that polices Area 51. What are your views on this?
Yes, you're talking about the Wacken Hut security.
Okay.
It
seems weird that Area 51 security is looking after Gorman Ranch. Well,
yes.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay, and you really pinpointed something really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Wacken Hut security. In fact, I have a former brother-in-law who was a Wacken Hut security guard. And come to find out, and he told me, he says, Paul, he goes, Wacken Hut is actually founded by an ex-CIA guy. So I did a little research, and Wacken Hut is actually founded, and I'm not in front of my computer right now, but by a former CIA person. I think CIA/FBI. And Wacken Hut had the contract for Area 51. Wacken Hut security guards are also to report it seen at Skinwalker Ranch. So somehow the government is behind this, and the scientists that are there are backed up by the government. So yes, you do have Wacken Hut security guards at Skinwalker Ranch and at Area 51.
Okay. Yeah, well, going back to them guys, with the Area 51 security, is it possible that nowadays a vast amount of the UFO light phenomena is actually drones?
Well, when I investigated Area 51, here's one of the most unusual stories that I've ever heard. But when I was at Area 51, this lady and two other people said that they witnessed a strange craft come out of the sky and went eye level to them. And it was in the shape of like a boomerang. And they could actually see the pilot. And the pilot laughed and waved at them. And he went eye level to them. And this craft wasn't making any kind of noise. So I think they have some very unusual military craft over there, experimental military craft over there. But I also too believe that Bob Lazar, who claimed to have worked over at Area 51, and it seems like now there's a lot of proof showing that he did work at Area 51, and he worked at a place called S4, and that's where they recovered alien craft of different variety of sizes and shapes, and that they were back engineering these UFOs at Area 51. His story is very consistent and very, very believable. And for him to also to take some eyewitnesses and say at a certain time over this ridge you're going to see UFO activity, and sure enough it happened. So I think Bob Lazar is very credible, and I do believe that there's we're getting a lot of knowledge from crashed UFOs, and we're using it on military craft. And I think that's what Area 51's all about. And I believed also too that a lot of that the secret stuff that was at Area 51, a lot of it is getting moved over to Utah, and it's getting moved over to Colorado. And here we go again with Skinwalker Ranch, because a lot of reported UFO sightings are happening in Colorado and in Utah and near the Skinwalker Ranch. I believe there's probably some kind of underground military base where a lot of stuff from Area 51 is being brought to Utah and Colorado.
Okay. The ranch seems to have way too much activity for one area. UFOs, skinwalkers, cryptids, spirit activity. What do you think is most prevalent and the driving force?
At Skinwalker Ranch is probably all the UFO activity, because there's constant sightings of UFO activity in the Uintah Valley. The reports just continue to come in almost on a nightly basis. So there's definitely something going on. And people say that when they walk around that area, that they can hear like heavy machinery underground. So there's definitely something going on above in the skies and below in the ground. There's something going on in that valley.
Yeah. What's so special about it that would attract, so many phenomena, and like, why here, why there?
I believe like you hear what is called ley lines that are throughout the earth. You have ley lines that lead you to Stonehenge, ley lines that lead you to Skinwalker Ranch, ley lines that send you over to Mount Shasta. These ley lines are something that extraterrestrials are probably very familiar with, that help them in energizing their spacecraft, their power sources, that extraterrestrials are very much interested in. And also, too, they're probably gateways to other dimensions at these center points. And I think the Skinwalker Ranch, the Uintah Valley, is probably some type of gateway, some type of portal for dimensional travel. So they can probably go from one dimension to another. That's why the Bigfoot was seen coming out of the portal and into the woods. There's a lot of parapsychologists too, and paranormal investigators that theorize the reason why you see the Loch Ness monster is that you're seeing an ethereal version of the Loch Ness monster, that there's some type of interdimensional portal that you're seeing back in time to probably the days of the dinosaurs, and you're seeing the creature, the Loch Ness monster, because you're looking at a portal, through a portal into the past. You're looking at something that's happening back in the dinosaur age when the Loch Ness monster was prevalent in Loch Ness.
Right, okay. Now, coming away from Area 51 and Skinwalker Ranch and that, we've said at the top of the interview that you've done over 1,000 investigations. What has been your best investigation to date, Paul?
Oh, that's a tough one. It was probably a very simple one. The one that made me a believer into the afterlife. It's just a home in Citrus Heights.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this to you before, but where I walked in and you can hear a little girl giggling, and I looked at my investigators. I said, "Can you hear that little girl giggling?" And they said, "Yeah, we're recording it, but you were able to actually hear it with your ears." And I heard the girl giggling again. I put my head down towards the giggle, and I said, "Hello?" And she says, "Hello," right back at me.
Wow.
And at that point in time, I became a very strong believer in the afterlife, because I experienced it right there and then. And then during my investigations, and this is a rarity, with over 1,000 investigations, I've seen 4 full body apparitions. So that was a mind blower. And then when I was then when I was in military intelligence, I knew that UFO activity actually existed because 3 photographs came in and they were part of a bigger picture. And on back of those photographs it said intelligent movement. And it's pictures of UFOs. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not 3. It was 6. It was 6 photos. 6 photos, and those 6 photos were part of a bigger picture of video footage of UFOs in outer space. And there were different sizes and shapes. There were cigar shape, globe shape, disc shape, and so I knew military intelligence. Military intelligence was investigating UFOs, even though that Project Blue Book quit. Our military is still interested in UFOs, and I witnessed that. I witnessed that at Photo Interpretation Center in Korea.
Okay. Now, in this ever-changing world, what skills do you need today to become an investigator?
Listening skills, because when the occupant is telling their story, you have to determine if their story is consistent, if there's any kind of contradictions. So it's very important to understand what their story is and if it makes sense. And then when investigating, to try to debunk it, try to find natural explanations. And when all that is eliminated, then you have one thing left, and that's the paranormal.
Okay. And lastly, to round up tonight, where can people find you for more details of your investigations and research?
My wife, she likes to post a lot of the different stories and pictures and audio clips and videos at her website, which is www.teardropsofanangel.com. And that's www.teardropsofanangel.com. And then my website, which is www.jasmaonline.com. www.jasmaonline.com. And if you have a paranormal investigation, you can call the paranormal hotline at 916-203-7503. 916-203-7503.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Paul, for giving us your time and talking to us about Skinwalker Ranch and other stuff that you've thrown in there about what you've what your theories are and everything and where you've been. It's been great talking to you again.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you to your husband, and thank you to Andy Mercer.
Okay.
I've been a bit quiet. I'm listening to all of it. So.
Give my regards to Deanna.
Okay, I'll tell Deanna who said hi.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was Paul Dale Roberts, and I'd just like to apologise because I read somewhere that he'd been to Skinwalker Ranch and he sort of had and hadn't.
He was there for about half an hour in the pouring rain from the sounds of it, which is a bit of a shame. But
Yes, but we have got somebody coming on later on in the year who is a Professor Anthony Paris, who has directed and produced the Skinwalker Ranch documentary, so hopefully this has been a precursor tonight, so I apologise for that. I feel a bit bad now.
Oh, it's not your fault, sir. I must have all my questions already framed around what an experience at the ranch itself. I mean,
this is what I thought, I thought he had been, from what I'd read, he'd been there, and I thought, well, great, it'd be great for him to talk to us about it, and what he'd done, so I'd like to apologise profusely.
That's not your fault, blimey, It's a little bit like last week's guest, the Other Planets, sort of his origins and talking weird rubbish. It's no one's fault, just sometimes it's quite what you hope for.
But we got his views out of him anyway, and we got some of the stories, and Steve had picked up on a few stories, so pretty interesting what you had to say. Thank you, Mank Hypno Man. He said he was an interesting guest, so thank you about that. That makes me feel a little better. Just let me tell you what's on next week. We've got Angus Dinsdale talking about his father. It was mentioned there in the in the actual interview there. But I don't know if you know who Angus Dinsdale is, but his right. Well, he's the father.
Son.
Well, he's the son who wrote a book called "The Man Who Filmed Nessie: The Legend of the Loch Ness Monster."
Oh, okay.
Angus has monster hunting in his blood. Born on the very day his father presented his famous film to the British nation on the BBC programme Panorama, Angus grew up in a household where searching for the Loch Ness Monster was his father's full-time and perfectly acceptable occupation. Subsequently, Angus's childhood was full of adventure as he took part in many monster hunting expeditions to Scotland. He developed a love for the outdoors, sports and travel, interests which have taken him all over the world, turning two key passions of rowing and skiing into adventures all of their own. He now lives in Vancouver, Canada, where he has found the inspiration to write, surrounded as he is by the essential playground of an adventurous life, majestic mountains, elemental wilderness and stunning lakes, which may even have a Canadian Nessie of their own. So, as I say, so we're going to be talking to Angus about his childhood and about his dad and about, his book and everything. So we're going to find out a bit about the Loch Ness Monster. What do you think to that, Andy?
I don't know, I guess just say he's in some kind of interdimensional or ancient ghost type thing.
Pardon?
Didn't I guess just talk about the Loch Ness Monster?
Yes. So, well, I must admit, I have actually thought...
It's something that we've touched on ourselves,
Yeah,
haven't
we've touched on ourselves that I actually think that the reason why we're not seeing Nessie now is because he was a ghost. That was always my theory.
That's kind of what the guy was just saying, isn't it?
Yeah, precisely. So that's what I think. And I think the stone tape theory or whatever, the recording has run out, and that's why we don't see it anymore. Because you think about it, yeah? We don't see cavemen.
Well, it's an interesting topic of discussion. The first thing I would say about that is you wouldn't see cavemen here because there weren't cavemen here.
What, in England?
No, not this part of the world.
Well, you see as far back as Cavaliers is what I'm saying, but you don't see anything...
There might have been when we were still connected to what is now Europe.
Well, yeah, Albion and all that lot, but...
Yeah, there weren't... The people of that era weren't living here, I can tell you that.
Right, but what I'm saying is...
I can also say to you that when I did an investigation many years ago with my friend Stuart Logan of COTC, we went to an Iron Age fort site and absolutely definitely saw figures wearing animal clothing, as in, very, very old. Not necessarily cavemen, but certainly going back
that's
to...
what I'm on about, that kind
Yeah,
of...
talk about Celtic kind of ancient Celt
The
time.
ones that used to chase the dinosaurs.
So, hold on. Also, we did a quite lengthy investigation in a place called Dundon Hill, which has an Iron Age fort on top. And we all saw figures moving around on that. Again, it wasn't clearly defined, but it was definitely of the Iron Age period. The three of us, all sensitive, all had the same feeling about what we were seeing as being of that time frame. So, yes, we do see things much further back than that.
Mank Hypno Man, I'll stop calling him Manky. Mank Hypno Man.
Just call him Mank.
Mank. He says, we do, in Audley Edge, we have a caveman ghost. So, you know what I mean? So maybe there is something of that ilk.
It's a very wide term, caveman. What kind of period? You could be talking about anything up to 1,000 years ago. Caves were being made use of. But if you're talking about prehistoric millions of years ago, then they weren't here.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying to you. I mean, if you're talking about of the period of human development when we did live in caves, then we weren't living in this part of the world. We were living, yes, England was attached to the mainland, but generally they were still very much in the sort of southern European area and didn't really spread out as far as this until about 30,000 years ago, which is long after what you call the caveman period. So, I mean, it's a question of terminology, really.
Well, if you go down to Drakelow tunnels, there's actually caves there that people used to live in.
Yeah, exactly.
On the side of the hill, because the top of the hill is an Iron Age fort.
when we talk exactly, I thought that's what we were talking about. This is the time period we're talking about. It's about 1,000 years ago, 1,000 BC, I should say. That's not caveman. We're talking cavemen millions of years ago.
Yes, right.
But we're certainly seeing ghosts and spirits from a couple of thousand years ago, 4,000 years ago. Absolutely, yeah. No, they are seen.
James W. has just said, didn't Jeremy Wade work out that the Loch Ness Monster was probably a certain large shark that only normally goes into Norwegian waters? I think they filmed one in the loch from a helicopter or something. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's one of the theories.
Somebody reckons it's a large catfish.
Yeah, or a sturgeon or something.
Yeah, or a sturgeon. But none of them would...
Or plesiosaurus.
Yeah, none of them would give you the neck pictures.
No.
No, that's just the problem you have is these creatures have that have been photographed or seen have long necks, and no animal that's been previously described, a shark or catfish or anything like that, has a long neck like that.
I think whatever it was, it must have been a plesiosaur, right? And I cannot believe that it was something out of King Kong where the lake was frozen over and there was something in there that was congenitally, or whatever you call it, genetically frozen, and then it's unfrozen and come alive. I can't believe that's that theory, even though it was something I thought of when I was a child.
It's kind of pushing it a little bit.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's been a long time since Loch Ness was frozen.
Oh yeah, I know. So.
Yeah. I mean, Scotland gets quite cold, but not that cold.
Yeah. I mean, apart from anything else, these whatever it is, it's supposed to come ashore every so often.
Yes, I mean, there are reports of this creature having been seen on the land, wholly on the land, walking around beside the loch. I mean, there are...
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's not a plesiosaur, a land creature as well?
I wouldn't know, to be honest with you.
No, don't mind think of that one. Having said that, if it does come on land, why are we not hearing reports of sheep and that guy missing?
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, it depends. It might be just vegetarian. You never know. Just because it's big.
Well, might be a Veggiesaurus.
Absolutely. Whales and gigantic. They only eat very small plankton and the like. It might not be that it eats large vertebrae. It might not have the teeth or the appetite for it.
Well, I think the angel shark, which is absolutely massive, is only eats plankton.
Exactly.
And the whale shark.
Yeah, most larger whales do as well. They only eat plankton at most. Nothing too large. You silverback sharks that eat men and that kind of thing. That's very rare, really. It tends to be something smaller creatures. But whatever it is, if it's anything at all, it still remains elusive, not been definitively videoed or photographed. There have been lots of photographs, videos floating about, but some of the most famous ones, of course, like the surgeon picture that was one of the ones that we sparked it all off in the 1920s, has now been completely debunked as being fake. And when that happens, it's really depressing. The kind of photograph that started off the craze for Nessie has now been shown to be fake. It's like, oh.
Well, we're going to find out a bit more next week anyway, so that should be interesting. And just to remind you that on the 30th of August, we have a friend of Andy's coming on by the name of Andrew Collins, and we'll be talking about his book that he's redone, or updated, I should say, which is The Black Alchemist, which has recently been updated from its original publication, and also about the Göbekli Tepe.
The ancient site in eastern Turkey. Leave it at that.
Is it Göbekli Tepe or something?
Like Göbekli Tepe, yes.
That's going to be fun trying to say that in a couple of weeks' time. But as I say, apparently he brought out this book, The Black Alchemist. When did it originally come out, Andy?
Oh my God, 88, I think.
And it's a true story, isn't it?
Very much so. It's one of those stories that you read it and you think, my God, how can this be true? I mean, if anyone's ever read it, it shows very powerful effects of psychic conflict, shall we say, between Andrew and the psychic he worked with, Chuck Bone, and this guy. They dubbed the Black Alchemist, so he doesn't actually, we've no idea. Well, officially they don't know his name. There's possible names been put forward, but they're not in the book for obvious legal reasons. But I've spoken to Andy about it, and Andy and has a good friend between the two of us, Richard Ward, who's been on the show with me recently, the book dealer. I know Richard did very, very well, and Andy knows Richard very well. And I've asked him a number of times, is this true? And he says, as far as I know, every word of it. And Andy says the same. I promise you, it's true. He says, what happened? These are the things we're experiencing, these visions, these experiences at these various locations. Objects were being found as we were described, they'd be found. So it's all pretty amazing, basically.
Well, as I was saying, it's been updated and re-released recently, revised for 2015. And I think it came out in May, and it tells the true story of the encounters of the UK's darkest figure from the 1980s. There's a video that I'll be putting up later on within the week of advertising it, and you can see there that there are some films of the South Downs in Sussex and Fifield Downs in Wiltshire, and it features Richard Ward, who Andy just mentioned, in the role of the psychic Bernard, and as himself.
The real Bernard actually passed away a few years ago, so
right, I see.
To talk to, but Richard has a passing resemblance to him anyway, so which is helpful. But yes, they are attempting to show some of the reenactment of what actually happened, and it's been floated before, and I don't know if I'm speaking out at the moment. It's been put forward before about possibly turning it into some kind of film at some point. So maybe this could be a precursor to that. I don't know. Say it's been on and off the cards for a number of years, so it's a possibility.
Right. Okay.
Yes, it'll be fascinating. So we're talking about the two ends of Andy's sort of spectrum of research. Göbekli Tepe is the most recent, and it was fascinating about this evidence of man's activity of being sort of cultured and stone carving, etc., going back much earlier than previously thought, which kind of brings us back to the caveman stuff, and the stuff that first launched Andy onto the sort of stage, as it were, with the Black Alchemist and associated psychic questing back in, the early 80s when it was really all happening. So it's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, so as I say, it should be good. He does know he's on for at least an hour, doesn't he, Andy?
Yep, give him full details.
Oh, that's good then. So I have actually asked him to be a contact. Whether he has yet, I don't know. So we'll see what happens.
He does travel a lot. He's constantly doing research. I mean, this is his full-time occupation, writing, researching, and the like, and giving talks. So he tends to go wandering off around the world occasionally. So
yeah,
sounds like he could be on for longer.
Yes,
it's very possible. Absolutely. I mean, Andy's a good guy. He can talk for England. So
and you'll have some questions for him, won't you,
God,
Andy?
Yeah. The strange thing is asking questions I know the answers to. So that's always
we
a bit.
We don't know the answers.
Ask the questions to elicit further information is the idea.
In the chat room don't know the answers.
Yeah, I know. So, Andy, how did we get into all this? Well, Andy, I got into it by doing this.
Well, I'd be asking him them kind of questions.
Yeah, that's all right then.
So, obviously...
It's questions about the Black Alchemist and stuff like that,
yes,
that we don't know, and our people tuning in won't know, unless they're actually into it.
I think a few might be aware of it before. Is anyone actually listening in the chat room now know of Andy Collins' books and read them at all? Anybody? Just put a little hello, yes or no in the chat room. Because, let's say, certainly back in the mid-80s, he was really quite known very well for this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then he kind of moved into what we would describe as sort of alternate history type books. And he wrote a book called The Ashes of Angels, which talked about sort of Nephilim and related sort of beings from the near Middle East. And that was a massive seller. He really did sell very well around the world, and kind of launched him into that kind of alternate sort of alternate history kind of thing. I'm trying to think of the correct term it's got now, but people like Graham Hancock have written about, etc., those kinds of writers, and he did a lot of that sort of material. And that was quite popular at first, but he's kind of come back full circle by redoing The Black Alchemist. And hopefully next year he's planning to do The Seventh Sword again, which is another book of a similar ilk that he's hoping to be published later next year, but that's all very much in the pipeline. So.
Well, just to answer you, Mossy, Mank and James said no. Sorry.
Yes, I see.
And Felix says, I do, but couldn't get into it.
Thankfully, we're not the only ones.
So we're not the only ones who don't know about the Black Alchemist.
So we'll be in the same boat as you lot, so let's be here together.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's definitely what we'll be talking about, though, sort of the two ends of Andy's work, really, I think. The original and the most recent.
Okay, and Steve mentioned Tony Toppin earlier on in the chat room. He will be with us on my birthday, which is the 6th of September. and hopefully I'll be awake because we've got an invest the night before, which I should be awake. But yes.
We have to be awake. We've got to go pick him up.
Well, yeah, because apparently he's coming here, Andy.
Oh, coming to the studio. Oh,
Yes, so
He will be live.
he says he's going to try and be live. So he says he's going to book a ticket.
Hey.
So, but as I say, he's coming to talk about his being a covert witness, as he does. Let me just tell you what he's all about. Bear with me while I just find his poster that I've done for him. Here we go. He's worked for a number of years in the security surveillance industry. This subject is no stranger to him. He also came under the most advanced surveillance technologies by people from a covert agency, the operation quietly hidden from the public and even government scrutiny. And he's going to talk to us about the latest events surrounding this we're going to talk about the latest events surrounding this covert witness. And the subject is the surveillance state. People be warned. So he's going to tell us what's going on there. So that will be interesting. Interesting evening. And then on the 12th, I think it's the 12th. Is it the 12th? Or is it the 13th?
Yeah, the week after.
13th, sorry. On the 13th of September, Andy's taking charge.
Oh, God, yes.
Okay, well, Andy's spoken about the JFK assassination before, but he's going to be talking about it a little more in depth.
Yes, we really covered basically on the show just the day itself, if everyone remembers. I did tune into that. I just talked about the events of the actual day. I want to try and get a bit more detail, both other ends of the scale, how it all may have started, the reasons behind it, and what kind of led up to it, and some of the other theories that are involved around the assassination and the sort of the follow-up from it. Because I do think it's a very important topic. I know, I'm not a massive fan of conspiracies generally, as you know, but this one, there is so much evidence that this is a genuine event that occurred, not the way the American government tried to portray it, but in the way that a lot of the conspiracy theorists would say, i.e. there was government involvement, there was more than one gunman, there was government-based cover-up of the events. The evidence is just massive, absolutely massive. And it's something that needs to be talked about, because I think it's more important than 9/11. Even if 9/11 was a conspiracy event, which I'm, not convinced by. We're going to discuss it obviously in September. 9/11 has led to a couple of sort of sizable conflicts in the Middle East and an ongoing war on terror. But the JFK assassination led to the actual going ahead of the Vietnam War. And I think how many people suffered in the Vietnam War. That was much longer, much larger scale war. And all the general change of direction that the American military took, the sudden build-up that's led to other conflicts in the world, that Kennedy was trying to rein all that sort of thing back, to not have them trying to spread American ideas around the world and cause as much trouble they could. So arguably, the JFK assassination changed American politics to the point that they became more expansive, more aggressive in other nations, and could have led to things like 9/11 happening in the first place. So I find it's an important milestone in American history, how the whole world changed direction after his assassination, because the difference of the policies, the changes that Lyndon Johnson made soon after Kennedy died.
Just a quick question about JFK, and I won't go into a big thing, but is it true that he was actually printed his own money, was going to take their system right out?
I'm going to take you about that. Yes, so we're talking about the Bank of America itself. So the Federal Reserve Bank is an independent organisation, and they were going to take that and basically bring it under government control, so there would be a much better regulation of finances, and the spread of the growth of the economy was much more in control then, because this is, as an independent body, the Federal Reserve Bank had too much power and again was unelected and was led by sort of people in the background, and Kennedy wanted to change that to bring it into an elected authority. So yes, that was another area. I mean, virtually every major area in American politics and finance, Kennedy was going to change. He was going to change the way in which the oil bankers were taxed and had to pay for the research and they had to do more funding for disaster problems that they might be caused by it. They were going to change the tax structure that the oil bankers were having to pay, so they were pissed off. Every major department of an area of American power, if you like, was being affected by Kennedy. Kennedy was when the CIA basically was breaking the CIA up into smaller departments and taking most of the covert operations into the military for them to carry them out, which again he'd have more control over as commander-in-chief than he would do over the CIA, who were large at the time, almost independent of him. He was wanted to get rid of J. Edgar Hoover, push him out the door, because he'd been head of the FBI for far too long and built up this cabal of power around him, who was having running battles with Robert Kennedy as the Attorney General. So, I mean, he was wanting to change so many areas of major American politics that, there was nobody left who didn't want him dead, basically. Everyone would benefit from him being out of the way. And I'm not saying everyone is involved, absolutely not. But one of the things I want to talk about is the fact that you could step back and have an idea something's going on, but not prevent it. Get an idea, something's in the workings here. Then I'm not going to ask any questions. You guys just get on with it.
Okay.
It's a bit like that a few people had to get together to be motivated and have the capacity to make the required event occur, shall we say, the removal, protection, etc. Didn't require the whole vast sway of American government, just a few individuals who were in the right places to ensure that the right kind of changes to protection were made on the day.
Well, during that month, we're going to have a break from what seems to be building up to be a conspiracy month, to talk with Nicole Strickland, who is a paranormal researcher, author, and public speaker. She's a fellow founder and director of the San Diego Paranormal Research Society, and serves as the team's EVP specialist and historical locations case manager. Now, she's been on the show before, but this was back in the first year of us broadcasting, talking about the Queen Mary in Southern California, and I think it's in Southern California, but we're talking about the RMS Queen Mary and the fact that it's haunted and what's been there. She contacted us recently to ask us if she could come back on the show to update us on what's been happening with the good lady. So that should be an interesting topic.
Can I just quickly jump back to me the week before? Just to say, I'm on my own this show, guys. So everybody in the chat room asks questions about the assassination by all means. I've got Steve and Sue left with some questions, but I'm relying on you guys because you're going to be my sort of almost like the people interviewing me, if you like, about the topic, because I say it's literally just me on my own. Richard can't make that show, so I will look forward to getting questions from you guys. So I'll try and answer the best as I can. Otherwise, I'm going to go for just basically the whole story as I know it. So,
okay. Now, on the 27th of September, guys, we have a debate, and I and Steve are going to be referees. We have the 9/11 debate. Now, this could be very controversial. Andy Mercer versus Ben Emlyn Jones. And I will not be playing anything to do with WWF. So we'll
can we play the Rocky theme instead?
We'll be asking questions, right, like how were 4 planes hijacked without anyone in the CIA knowing about it beforehand? Was it an inside job? Is there any merit to the conspiracy theories? Andy and Ben are going to go head-to-head in discussion to what may have happened in September 2001.
Oh, yeah.
So that just tells you what's coming up in in September.
Mm-hmm. I shall say no more about that until Ben's on here to have his side of the argument. But, I just wanted to state, just for the record, really, that I am not saying there was no conspiracy of any kind whatsoever. There are some very dodgy things going on around that time in those events. But I don't think it's anything like as wide, huge scale as some theorists have claimed. I'm not saying Ben's one of those. I'm just saying that I don't think this is a limited conspiracy around knowledge rather than carrying out events is my position, which I'll go into obviously more detail. I think the idea gets Ben and I to state our positions first, and then we can argue with each other's position.
I like what Don's put. Howard to hospital quarters.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the funny thing is actually...
Team Ben versus Team Andy.
The really funny thing is, I went to the Vampire Symposium back in July, and it turned out Ben was there. He was downstairs. He didn't come up, he didn't have a ticket for the actual event, but he was downstairs. He wanted to meet Gareth Davis. Apparently he's a big fan. Gareth was the guy who sat next to me at the on the Ghost panel, although I knew of, I had never met before, and it was a really interesting chat, but it turned out Ben was there. And I said to him afterwards, I saw him on Facebook, I said the photograph he put on Facebook of him and Gareth, and I said,
Well, I've got my bell, just in case.
oh, I said, well, why don't you say hello? And he said, oh, you seem a bit busy, so I didn't get a chance to. Yeah, he was actually there. Mm-hmm.
So, so it's second out, round 1, on the 27th of September. I'm dreading it, I really am.
Oh, yeah.
But Ben knows what he's in for, doesn't he?
Yes.
Doesn't he, Andy?
What's that?
Ben knows what he's in for.
I've advised him to listen to previous shows, so hopefully he's got an idea, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got to say nothing against the guy whatsoever, just I do have big concerns about some of these theories. The biggest concern I have is I think the American populace themselves just cannot accept the possibility that their own military got it so wrong, that they thought they were so safe and they were so smug in that safety that they could just carry on regardless and no one ever touched them on home soil. And the fact that something as big a scale as that happened right under their noses, I don't think the Americans can accept that this was done the way primarily it was said. The idea that, it must be some kind of inside job behind this, because how can these people do this? Now, the interesting thing is, of course, you could say that about the JFK assassination. How could it possibly be that, the conspiracy theories exist because people can't accept the idea that one person all by his lonesome carried out those shots? But now there's two. I can give him chocolate cake. Very nice.
Where's mine?
Right. The problem is there's just too much evidence. There's irrefutable evidence. Like, I just had a quick conversation on the chat room with a lecture man saying about the fact that one theory had been put forward that Kennedy was shot by accident by one of his bodyguards in the car behind. But it comes back to the same problem. You have the basic physics of the fact that when Kennedy's shot in the head, his head goes backwards. He's been shot from the front. It's basic physics. So, and the American government will tell you point blank that the shot that killed Kennedy in the head came from behind him.
Right.
The physics tells you that's not possible.
Okay.
This is the problem.
There's a little question there from James. Did you see it?
Yeah, did I see once footage of Jack Ruby saying to a reporter, the man in charge, in response to a question, who told you to do it, being Lyndon Johnson?
Yes, there are interviews that Ruby gave whilst he was on death row, although he died of natural causes in the end. He has pointed the finger in various directions in the past. The only thing you could say for definite with Ruby was that he was coerced into shooting Oswald, because apparently the day it actually happened, and there's more than one reporter said, police officer said this, he was after shooting Oswald, he was taken down to a cell because he was actually in the car park of the police station, put into a cell and was panicking. He was sweating profusely. He was obviously very frightened and asked for a cigarette to smoke, which he smoked shaky-handedly. When he was told that Oswald was dead, which would mean the death sentence for Ruby apparently calmed down. And so he didn't actually smoke, didn't want the fag anymore, felt and seemed much more relaxed. He was obviously more terrified of those who'd given the orders to Ruby to kill Oswald than he was the fact that he shot Oswald and killed him. And that's remarkable. If Oswald had survived, he may have been in prison for a few years, attempted murder, etc. And he may even been found not guilty for the idea that he was doing it to protect Jackie Kennedy's sort of life and reputation. He may well have got off, but when there is murder, when you commit murder one, in America, that is it, automatic sentencing, pretty much. I mean, you're put on trial, but you pretty much guarantee with 20 witnesses there, and thousands, tens of thousands watching on TV. So remember, he shot him live on TV. That, Ruby was definitely going to go down for the death sentence.
Okay.
Yeah, he was more relieved to know that Oswald was dead than alive.
Right.
So, someone obviously told him to do it and made it very clear, you must do this thing.
Well,
so whoever that was, I don't know.
As you've heard from Andy, he's going to need your questions for that in the chat room, or maybe you can talk to him on the Skype.
Yeah,
maybe.
Skype.
So he'll probably give you his Skype details or something. So, but yes, as I say, it's you can ask him your questions. So why don't you come on and join him and find out what he has to say about it? Now, don't forget if you would like to be involved on the show, then contact us at show@ktpf.co.uk, where we are open to discuss any specific areas within this genre, including ghosts, UFOs, cryptozoology, psychic phenomena, or other supernatural and unexplained mysteries. So get involved, as this is your show too. Maybe we can have you come on, have a show where you come on and tell us what you think about certain topics, and talk about your theories. And you can put it to us, and we can discuss things like that. Issue 5 is out now, which is our magazine that accompanies the show, with contributions from many names within the topics we cover, plus our regular features and much more. Just click on the link on the menu bar and you can view the online digital flip page version or download a PDF copy for yourself. And although the issues started out monthly, we will be publishing them bi-monthly from now on, so our next issue will be in October or end of September. Also, we are always looking for contributions from people within these subjects, i.e. showcasing groups or highlighting venues. So if you would like to add an article to the KTPF magazine, then send your articles to editor@ktpf.co.uk, although we regret that we cannot accept every article we receive. Did you want to say something, Andy?
We can accept every article, we just not necessarily publish every article. No, that's it. Just it was, I love doing the magazine, but it does take an awful lot of my time up, so that's why I've cut it down to once every other month now. So, but it probably would have been like huge bumper editions of 50, 60 pages plus. So,
Yep, this is it. So it's going to be a bumper edition every month, every bi-monthly, is it?
I expect so, yeah, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, well, while Andy's eating his cake and having a quick drink, we're going to do the advert for you, and then we'll come back to Andy's Mysteries and Conspiracy Files. Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. Paranormaleventsforyou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. Paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. Okay, so we're back with Andy. Are you there, my dear?
Are we not doing the events anymore?
No, because there's not many of them at the moment.
I'm having a cake. You've been talking about a few events.
You've got cake, have you?
Cake, yeah.
Well, as I say, while you're eating your cake, next week we're actually at Hay Hall on Friday, aren't we, Steve?
We are.
Yes.
Off to Hague Hall.
Hay Hall in Wigan, which...
Can you help me out? Is it Hague or Hay?
Hague. Well, Hay Hall.
But it's
pronounced Hague. It's pronounced Hay, but it's
spelled Hague.
Yeah. Right. So basically, Hay Hall is a place in Wigan which we've been hosting events there, haven't we, Steve?
We have indeed.
For the past 18 months, I think, maybe less than that. Past just over a year, I think. And we've got one more there in October. They've given us a go ahead for that because it's another venue that's being turned into a hotel.
No.
Yes, and unfortunately,
it's not making enough money as an attraction to keep it open.
Now around the place, it's like Hay Hall Country Park, so they've got golf and they've got stuff there. So it's the perfect place to have a hotel, really.
Yeah.
But
especially if they can upgrade the golf course.
Yeah, and it was the building was actually used for Falls War. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's the one.
A couple of seasons ago, they used
yeah,
it.
we got there to set up, and they were taking all their stuff out.
Yeah, didn't have an explosion there or something. I can't remember now.
On the top floor that was derelict anyway, they made it look like a bomb had gone through it.
Mm.
And it was still like it when we were investigating it.
So they've got quite a lot of restoration to do to it, really, because the whole of the top floor where the living quarters were, and there's a small schoolroom there, all needs renovating and everything, and the floor needs doing, and the ceilings need doing, and everything. But but it's a lovely place, and there's rumours that the lady of the house wanders the path, doesn't it?
Yeah, the top floor was when it was being used and in good condition, had trouble with poltergeist activity.
Yes.
Although we
remember
haven't
that.
found any.
No. So, but just to let me see. I'll just see whether I can find out a bit for you. It's this says who haunts Hay Hall. It says that its reputation for being haunted by particularly grisly and frightening spirits. There have been various very violent poltergeist activity in the past, particularly on the top floor, aka the upper tier, which has subsequently been sealed off for decades. Injuries and nervous breakdowns have been reported by visitors, particularly among paranormal investigators. The last of their inquiries had such a disastrous outcome that one member was sectioned into a mental asylum.
What?
Yeah, after this upsetting event, a ruling was made declaring Hay Hall's top floor a no-go zone for amateur ghost hunters. I must admit, we've never had that problem, have we?
No, we've never had any problems, anything like that.
Do what, Andy?
That suggests pre-existing mental illness that was going to the surface, rather than being caused by it.
Attempts have also been made to keep news of these incidents out of the public domain. Hay Hall's ornate downstairs area is still used for occasional official functions, and its local authority owners did not want it to become famous for the wrong reason. However, ghoulish stories have continued to leak out.
Yeah, because it's a wedding venue at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. The hauntings of the hall have taken a variety of forms. Many physical manifestations have been reported, from nightmarish hooded figures to the recognisable spirits of witnesses, own deceased family members, though there is evidence to suggest that there are not those persons at all, but malevolent doppelgangers seeking to cause mischief. Shrieks, cries and insane laughter have been heard, while brief terrible smells have been noted, like the stench of a pit filled with dead animals. One former caretaker told me, with no earthly source ever traceable. So that's where we're going.
Yeah. I think the worst we've had, as in affecting people, was one lady was violently sick.
Yes, she was.
She started out in the cellar, and then we got her calmed down and all right, and we took one up to the first floor, and it happened again.
Yeah, but when we took her out of it, she was fine. And as soon as she went back in, so there you go, Mozzie. You was having an interest in that one because it was near you, I think you said, or was that St Helens that you were thinking about? But
I think it was St Helens.
But as I say, oh yes, absolutely. I think that's to something else.
Having a conversation about JFK, we were talking
yes,
about.
I just noticed. But yes, there is. As I say, Lady Mabel is the person that's supposed to wander around the building and also in the grounds as well. So so it's got some. Apparently, the story about that is that she was. I think she was caught. She'd been infidel, wasn't she? She'd been having an affair or something or other while her husband was away or something.
I think so, yeah.
And then she got made to walk from the house to Mab's Cross or something. I think that was the what was it? A fearless medieval era spectre who spent her final days of life serving a torturous barefoot penance for the crime of bigamy. There you go. That was what she did, and evidence have come to light that an underground passage may lead from the hall, a priest hole connecting with the old mining tunnels. So we've been down the cells there, haven't we? Down into the
in the back tunnels, yeah.
In the back tunnels. So that's where we're going on the 30th of October, Andy. If you're still coming up.
Sounds good.
If you're still coming up.
Oh, yep.
So, have you eaten your chocolate cake?
I have indeed, yes.
I thought I'd give you some time there. Oh well, here's Andy.
Okay, guys, this is my first story of the evening. I've not got very many because I've been quite a busy week and I was away from Thursday night onwards. But I found a few. Here's my first one I thought was quite interesting. It kind of links a little bit to the whole 9/11 business, really. Talk about Homeland Security, which of course became a massive topic after the 9/11 events. So this one apparently kept something rather unusual on actual real US government footage, which you can see here. It's just on the clip actually shows it. A video showing a UFO coming out of the sea and apparently splitting in two, as alleged to belong to the US Department of Homeland Security. A group called the Scientific Coalition for Ufology claims the footage was captured by a DHS aircraft, which I assume is those drone things, I don't really know. They claim they were given the thermal video by an official source. In the footage, the UFO flies at high speed past the screen. The SCU says the image cannot be a drone, bird, balloon, or another aircraft. They estimate the UFO is travelling at around 90 miles an hour underwater and 120 miles an hour in the air. Now, 90 miles an hour in the water sounds incredibly fast, and 120 in the air seems incredibly slow. But I don't know. The former head of the British government's UFO project, Nick Pope, good old Nick, said the footage was fascinating, which means absolutely nothing, really, doesn't it? Fascinating. It's like my using the word interesting, and I don't really know what else to say. Assuming the video isn't a clever hoax, which is always possible these days, it's a fascinating piece of footage, he told The Express. About the only conventional explanation might be to fit the bill is that it's some new drone, but entry and exit from the sea and the apparent splitting in two of the object makes this explanation seem unlikely. He said the footage was the kind which gets experts excited, and that would be watching for developments of the video with interest. Blah. So there you go. What do you think of that one, guys?
I think there's something wrong with this.
Say again?
Well, I'm watching the video, yeah.
Yes.
And I didn't actually see it come out the water, but
No.
when it's flying, it seems to be very jerky. It's like it speeds up, slows down, speeds up, slows down. It just doesn't fly right.
Yeah, you're quite right. Actually, we watched it. I don't know if you. Don't know. I'm not sure.
I mean, if something's going,
the close up
it would
later
go.
on,
But
and how it moves with the waves, I think it's all right. I think the camera scanning it's a bit jerky. It's having trouble keeping up with it.
yeah, but even then, it seems to get in front of the camera, and then it just speeds up and then slows down again.
I don't know if you watch it in relation to the waves. Its speed seems to be fairly uniform. The camera itself is a bit jerky around. The actual camera stops and starts.
Okay.
Interesting that you don't see the actual moment this thing apparently splits in two, do you? There's a funny sort of flash, and then it's already in two, so you never actually see it split in two.
Now
So
it's in the water.
I don't know. Anyway, here's number two. My prediction.
Number two.
Lost the page. Oh, there you go. There you are. Yes, James Garcia. Sam Giancana was one of the most powerful mafia figures of the time. So just changing a little point.
All right, I gathered that.
Okay, pictured. Grandad just moments after a UFO tried to abduct him while cycling, apparently.
Andy,
Granddad found with head injuries after a nocturnal cycle ride claims aliens on a UFO tried to abduct him when he crashed into bushes to avoid escape.
Don't disturb him yet.
Francesco Ascotta Torrendo, I think that's correctly pronounced, 68, told authorities he was riding his bike on a highway in the city of Paso de Vento in... I always get the names that I can't pronounce. Ventura, in a place in Mexico, when an unidentifiable craft flew so close it knocked him off his bike. He told police, who found him in a deep gash in his head, he believed aliens in the craft had been trying to kidnap him. But the Mexican pensioner seemingly avoided being taken off in the UFO after landing in nearby bushes, the local report said. Car mechanic, Spanish-type name, said he was driving along the road when he spotted Mr. Torrento lying in the bushes on the roadside before he alerted emergency services. Poor old chap. The police have found no trace of alleged UFO or its occupants. Paseo de whatever is better known for its drugs cartel violence than UFOs, and has been described as one of the most dangerous places in the world. It's not only got to do with drugs, and you also got to deal with UFOs trying to abduct you. Alarming. Around 58 people have been murdered this year in a small area of only 7,000 residents. However, UFO sightings coincide with attacks on cattle in the area of the last few days were made as early as 2002. Authorities blame the attacks on coyotes, but local farmers said the wounds could not have been caused by wild animals. So we're back to Skinwalker stuff, aren't we? But you have to wonder if someone that's got such a high prevalence of drug activity that it could be any number of things that might have bumped him on the head. But it was rather inventive, I thought, for him to come up with the idea of being attacked and abducted by a UFO.
Yeah, whatever. That one. The one before, the split happens at about 2:38.
Oh, right, I didn't see it. I must admit. It sort of flashes as it splits, so you kind of miss it a little bit. Okay, here we go. Next one. This one, I'm not going to read all of it because it's quite lengthy, but I was quite surprised by this little chap. Here we go. Did Nostradamus predict ISIS rise? 16th century warnings of terror reign and what's next?
No, he didn't. He didn't do World War II either.
It gets onto that, don't worry. The French prophet Nostradamus predicted ISIS to begin to dominate parts of Europe in news which will spark a third world war, with such a sensationally claiming. Nostradamus is believed by some to have accurately predicted the rise of Napoleon and Hitler and the first two appearances of the three Antichrists. Da, da, da. This is what I was talking about last week, weren't we? Briefly about Antichrist coming up when Dick Larson talking about his mate, whatever his name was, coming on and saving the world from the Antichrist. Yes. So when the 16th century prophet predicted a third and final Antichrist, more hideous than the first two combined, coming to power on the earth before a 27-year Third World War, was he referring to ISIS? Many researchers of the infamous French prophet who died in 1566 are convinced that he has correctly foretold the current barbaric acts committed by ISIS in the Middle East, including its recently declared bid to capture areas of Europe to fulfill its caliphate. One website, Nostradamus 2242, claimed World War III will begin this year, and as a result, the struggle with ISIS and the world will end in 2242, 27 years from now. The website leaves 4-verse quatrain from which is claimed to be warnings of unfolding events in Syria and Iraq. It said Nostradamus has been translated as saying, "He will enter wicked, unpleasant, infamous, terrorizing over Mesopotamia," which is actually the area of Iraq and Syria, so that one bit is correct. All friends made by the adulterous lady. What lady? Land dreadful and black aspect. Okay, they do wear black masks, so there's that little bit there. But the adulterous lady is meaningless reference, really. The website says an amazing quatrain about Iraq's ordeal and tyranny on the ongoing sectarian violence, particularly in the aftermath of the 2003 US invasion, the surging of Al-Qaeda, and leading to the organisation of ISIS. ISIS target is Mesopotamia, the present-day Iraq. ISIS is also the most wealthy terrorist organisation in the world, thanks to numerous contributors. ISIS flag uniform is black. Their combat methods are infamous, and Islamic Sharia law is tyrannical. Well, that's a bit... yeah, okay. I'm not going to go on reading any more of this, because it does go on for quite a long time. But as you say, it predicted that the Third World War originally was going to be in 1999, and then it didn't happen then. So the simple problem with Nostradamus' predictions is they're so bloody vague. I remember quite a few years ago, when I used to work in a shop that sold books on Nostradamus. There were two books we had in stock. One was set before the First Gulf War, and one was printed after the First Gulf War. And the two books had obviously all the same quatrains in them, but the quatrains that the book before the First Gulf War listed all these quatrains as being linked to the overthrow of the Shah in Iran in 1980. The book published after the First Iraq War had exactly the same quatrains now being translated to be talking about the Gulf War. And you think, well, they can't both be right, but yet the way in which these been fragmentally read, they both sound like they were absolutely correct. So it does leave one to wonder if Nostradamus was actually predicting anything of any real value or anything you can actually make any real sense of. So, but I thought it was just interesting that he's now trying to say ISIS are the new third Antichrist.
Yeah, I think the problem with Nostradamus is people do just what you just said. They take bits of
Absolutely.
it and make it fit instead of taking the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is, the question is, there's no historic dating whatsoever. There's no reference of dates or time frame or anything. So he could be readings for the next 10 years after his death, after he actually was doing the readings. There's no way of scaling it forward to our point, apart from one of the very last, which does talk about 1999, of course, as being the end of the world, which it wasn't. It's been, no. Okay, things might have happened, but we're still here. The war has not ended. Might be going to hell in a handcart, as the saying goes, but it's not actually ended yet. So there we go. Anyway, last one is my reasonably silly video of the week. I just came across this one while doing some research. It's not actually for once one on YouTube, but it's equally silly, I think. There we go. From the mirror. Watch as bizarre shape like Vladimir Putin's face appears to be formed in the night sky by a flock of birds. And when the video clip appears, you can watch it. All of 44 seconds long. Now, if this is not CGI, I don't know what is. Watch this video clips, guys. Nope, it froze. Is yours frozen? Oh, there we go.
The right side of this is you're going to see Gorman Ranch, the Brooklyn Bridge, Pier 17.
Now, if that's not CGI, I don't know what it is. Just looks bizarre. I mean, first and foremost, okay, you might say that it's Vladimir Putin's face. It is rough proportions for a few seconds, but they're not there. I'm absolutely convinced this whole thing is CGI put together. What do you reckon, guys? Have a look yourselves.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look like it's just been placed in there.
Yeah, I mean, the birds at one point in the slow motion appear to be bouncing in unison. Kind of going up and down very slightly in unison. It's like, I don't think so. But yeah, so that was my little silly video with it.
Okay. Thank you, Andy.
Right, all right.
So what you got planned for this week then, Andy?
Me, not a lot really. Usual, back to work. Clients on Monday through to Friday or Thursday. I don't do Fridays. Excuse me. Moment probably cataloguing my new books and decide where the hell I'm going to fit them all in my bookcase, which is overflowing as it is. So I'm going to need a new bookcase soon. Here's another one. Where am I going to put it? But other than that, not an awful lot, to be honest with you.
Okay. We're going to pop off to Peterborough for a couple of days to
Ooh.
see my auntie. So yes. See what happens.
Look, I just asked James to definitely come on for my JFK show because you've got some interesting questions there, and I'd like to discuss with more detail. Definitely.
Yes. We need people to interact next week. No, not next week. In a couple of weeks' time.
But yeah.
No, not next week. Next week we've got, as I said, we've got Angus Dinsdale on talking about his father and his quest for the Loch Ness monster. So that should be quite interesting, finding out more or less from the horse's mouth. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
So
it really is, isn't
it? But, so that would be good, wouldn't it, Steve?
Yes, it's you don't get a lot of direct information when it comes to Nessie.
Yes, it's nice to hear firsthand from somebody who's been directly involved in investigating rather than somebody who just wrote a book about it who probably never seen anything themselves.
Yeah, it's when it's like that, it ends up being anecdotal instead of.
Yes, exactly.
Actual.
Trouble is, anyone can tell anecdotal stories. We could sit here all night, could find out 24 stories and tell them to you. That doesn't mean you want people who've been directly involved. Tonight's guest was an interesting chap, definitely. Some of the things he talked about was quite fascinating. Some of the things he said at the beginning I wasn't happy with, as you know, with the orange stuff. But
I'm a bit disheartened about that. The fact that
talking about Skinwalker was very
I'd
limited.
read that he'd been to Skinwalker Ranch, and when it came to it, he sort of did and didn't. So, but, unfortunately.
A shame, but we did get some good information from him.
Yeah.
About other things.
About other things.
I just got a bit concerned. So he started talking about demons and dispelling demons. I thought, oh god, here we go again.
Well, unfortunately, that is the American thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very much.
I just try and find out, just briefly, the concept of why Americans go down the road of demons all the time.
Because they're much more Christian orientated than we are. We're much more a secular society than they are. So they tend to adopt that more Christianized approach to such entities. Because they are essentially a more Christian country than we are, whether we like it or not. A greater percentage of the American population go to churches than do here. It's an indoctrination into that belief system. So yeah, they're going to think of it that way. But as we've talked previously, we know that energies, entities, whatever you want to call them, can manifest them in ways that make sense to the person who's experiencing the manifestation. So to them, they will seem like demons. They will seem like malevolent activity, because that's what they expected. Because Christianity will teach you that ghosts are demons, if you take it literally in terms of what the Bible is telling you. They are only from hell. They're only minions of Satan, etc., etc. They're no good ghosts. They're all bad. That is directly from the Bible, biblical representations of the supernatural.
Right.
Well, I'm sure there's people out there that would say that you know wholly too much about this, so you must be a demon.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I'm afraid that's about it for tonight then. So, unfortunately, early night tonight, which is good because I've got to get the show on tonight because I won't have time tomorrow.
Yes,
so
you need to get it on for our replay listeners.
Yes, so we hope you've enjoyed tonight's show, and as we have enjoyed your company, and look forward to seeing you again next week from 8 p.m. on www.ktpf.co.uk.
And thanks for listening to the KTPF Community Talk Show, which is sponsored by Phenomena Magazine and Beyond Parazine.
And as I say, it's great to see some new people in the chat room, James W. And also some regulars, including Vectraman and Mozzie and Mank Hypno Man and Felix. So please join us again next week.
And I want to see Don Sicknote, but he came in very late.
Yes, Don, you came in late. He'll blame me because I didn't remind him again.
Yeah, probably.
Well, better late than never. So.
Just a quick shout out to Chris Mack if you're listening on the YouTube channel. So we haven't forgot you. We know you're there somewhere, and hope to see you again on the Facebook page, or the group page. But until next time, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from her.
And it's good night from him, whoever he is.
So until next time, all that's left to say is keep the paranormal friendly. Good night, God bless.
This is where it's at.
From ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night, visit our ghost store, and next time you might be able to show what just gave you a fright.
So for all of your investigation needs, with over 100 products in stock waiting for dispatch within 24 hours, you need to visit theukghoststore.com.